good evening. If you are hearing this, you have either decided to learn about the long and tediously boring history of the toaster, or you are simply trying to fall asleep. Either way, both are noble pursuits. Let us begin. The story of the toaster begins long before electricity, long before bread came sliced, long before breakfast became hurried. In fact, the earliest form of toasting dates back thousands of years to ancient Egypt, when bread would often grow hard and stale in the dry desert air. Egyptians discovered that holding it over a fire made it more palatable. Warm on the outside, soft again inside. That was the first primitive toasting. There were no temperature dials, no crumb trays, just bread and fire. The Romans, of course, borrowed this idea. They called it tostum, which meant to scorch or to burn. From this word came our modern toast. Even then, it was not yet an art form. It was survival, a way to extend the life of bread. That is the beginning. Centuries passed. People discovered new grains, new shapes of bread, and new ways to cook it. The fireplace remained the toaster's humble ancestor. If you wanted toasted bread in the 18th or 19th century, you would pierce it with a long metal fork, hold it near the fire, and wait, and wait, and wait. Patience was not optional. Then came the 1800s, a century of invention. The spark of the Industrial Revolution brought new tools and new possibilities. One of them was electricity. And eventually, someone looked at a glowing wire and thought, yes, that could toast bread. In 1905, an inventor named Albert Marsh, an electrical engineer from Chicago, developed an alloy called nichrome, a combination of nickel and chromium. Nichrome could heat quickly when electricity passed through it without melting or burning away. This simple discovery changed the path of kitchen history, because suddenly it was possible to make a reliable electric toaster. The first commercially successful model arrived in 1909, created by a man named Frank Shaler of General Electric. It was called the D12. It looked like a small metal cage with exposed wires and a single slot for bread. It toasted one side at a time. You had to flip the bread yourself. People used to stand beside it carefully, watching to make sure it didn't char too much. A ritual that inspired many sighs and a few burns. The D12 had no automatic shutoff. You, the operator, were the shutoff. In a way, this was intimacy between human and toaster, a cooperation, and perhaps a mild danger. By the 1920s, automatic pop-up toasters started to appear. Charles Strite, in 1919, filed a patent for one such machine. His design included a timer and springs that would gently lift the bread when done. No longer did you have to guess or hover. You could step away, butter at the ready. His invention became the Toastmaster, released for household use in 1926. It was chrome-plated, stylish for its time, and thoroughly modern. An instant hit at breakfast tables across the United States. By the 1930s, the toaster had become a symbol of modern domestic life. Simple, predictable, comforting in its small daily purpose. Toast almost always came with something: a newspaper, coffee, or small talk about the weather. The toaster witnessed countless early mornings and late-night snacks, silently ticking on countertops like a loyal companion. Then, an innovation arrived that changed the relationship forever: sliced bread. In 1928, a man named Otto Friedrich Rohwedder introduced a machine that could slice and package bread automatically. This led to the famous phrase, "the best thing since sliced bread." For the toaster industry, it was a dream come true. Evenly sliced bread toasted beautifully. Finally, perfection from crust to crust. A match made in quiet breakfast heaven. Through the mid-20th century, designs became more polished. Brushed steel, rounded corners, dual slots, and eventually the pop-up sound. A faint metallic note that signaled morning was ready to begin. Toasters evolved even further to 4-slot versions, automatic settings, crumb trays, and eventually models with all the elegance of a small appliance opera singer. Some manufacturers tried creative directions. There were conveyor belt toasters for diners, side-loading toasters for campers, transparent toasters, so one could literally watch the toast being made, which might appeal to those who find patience deeply thrilling. As the 1960s approached, advertisements portrayed toasters as the pinnacle of convenience. Television commercials showed happy families smiling at their breakfast bar, toast springing triumphantly into the air. It was the golden age of the golden crust. But even perfection has competitors. The microwave emerged, sleek and efficient. It could reheat almost anything, except toast. For all its power, it could not reproduce that crisp, satisfying texture. The toaster quietly remained, stalwart and unchanged. It did one thing, and it did it well. Toward the end of the 20th century, the toaster became digital. New models offered precise temperature control, icons for bagels, and even frozen pastry settings. Yet, at its core, the machine still had one simple job: brown the bread and pop it up. Today, toasters are everywhere. In kitchens and hotel breakfast buffets, in college dorms and office break rooms. Some connect to Wi-Fi, because apparently, even toast must now be part of the Internet of Things. There are smart toasters that photograph your bread and decide the perfect shade of brown. Others remember your settings, as if nostalgia were an algorithm. And yet, for all this advancement, the act itself has not changed much at all. You wake up, you place a slice in the slot, you push down the lever, and you wait. A minute or two of soft hums, gentle heat, and anticipation. It is a small ritual, one that feels both modern and ancient. From the Egyptian hearth to the glowing Nickeron coil, the toaster is a story of persistence. A machine that asks for nothing more than a steady current and in return offers a warm, fragrant piece of toast. So as you lie there, perhaps drifting off, you might imagine the faint click of a spring, the slow rise of brown bread, and maybe even the quiet satisfaction that humans have found for millennia in turning something common into something warm, simple, and briefly perfect. The toaster may not demand attention, but in its quiet way, it teaches patience, consistency, and the joy of small comforts. Perhaps that is its real legacy. Not the crunch, not the chrome finish, but the gentle reminder that even the most ordinary inventions can quietly shape how we live. And that concludes the long and tediously boring history of the toaster. May your dreams be evenly browned, and may your mornings rise gently like toast from the tray. Good night. So that made it about 8 minutes long. Use that as a baseline and make it 15 to 20 minutes. To achieve a peaceful 15 to 20 minute speech at 80% speed for 11 laps with white noise breaks, here's an expanded version. This version draws out facts, adds more vivid detail, digressions on bread culture, quirky anecdotes, reflections on the social meaning of toast, and long, calming transitions. Each section ends with the requested rain break for a gentle auditory buffer. The long and tediously boring history of the toaster, with extended content and breaks for rain sounds. Good evening. If you are hearing this right now, you have either decided to invest your time in learning the long and tediously boring history of the toaster, or you are trying to fall asleep, perhaps hoping the monotony of this history will gently carry you into slumber. Either way, welcome. Let us begin our journey together. The story of the toaster is not a short one. It is a tale that stretches back through centuries, winding its way, slice by slice, through human history. Let us first consider the humble origins of toasted bread itself. Thousands of years ago, even before organized civilization, early humans learned the value of preserving food. Bread, one of the very first prepared foods, quickly realized its potential as both sustenance and, when exposed to heat, comfort. Imagine ancient Egypt. Here bread was a dietary staple, but in the desert sun, it could quickly grow hard and stale. Someone around 6,000 years ago realized that if you put stale bread over a fire, it softened and became more delicious. This wasn't toast as you know it, but the first steps toward improving bread by heat. Close your eyes and picture a clay hearth. A slab of simple bread balanced carefully over glowing embers. There was no rush, no timer, no beginner's guide to how long to toast. Only patience and the smell of baking grain. The Egyptians didn't patent this idea. Word of their toasting method spread through the Mediterranean, on trade routes and by word of mouth, and the ancient Greeks and Romans adopted it. The Romans gave us the word toast, from the Latin tostum, meaning scorched or burnt. Imagine a Roman kitchen at dawn, bread placed on a hot stone, the flames licking gently at the crust. Toasted bread was offered at banquets, at cafes, at dawn and at dusk. It was valued not only as food, but as a small luxury. Bread culture grew sophisticated. By medieval times, toasting bread was a common scene across Europe, not for gadgets, for necessity. Wooden-handled forks and simple grates over an open fire. The kitchen filled with the faint, smoky aroma of brown bread. Every family had its own method. Some folks liked it thin and burned, others thick and just golden on the edges. Ancient disagreements, quiet, gentle, sometimes passionate, about the best way to make toast. The centuries stretched on. Millers improved flour. Bakers made softer breads. But toasting always came down to the same two things: bread and heat. For hundreds of years, nothing much changed. except who held the fork. In the 1700s, with the abundance of ironwork, cast iron toasting forks became more common. Tea and toast became a breakfast ritual in England and throughout Europe. If you can imagine it, breakfast tables loaded with toast racks, each slot holding another piece of crispy, perfectly brown bread. In stately homes, the act of toasting was elevated, a social activity. Groups would gather around the kitchen fire, each person responsible for their slice. In diaries from the Victorian era, toasting is described in loving detail. Authors wrote of early mornings, the soft crackle from the fireplace, butter melting from a pat onto warm toast. It may feel ordinary today, but then it was almost ceremonial. At this point, let us take a slight detour to consider a question. Why do people love toast so much? There are scientific answers. The Maillard reaction, the interplay of sugar and protein, the creation of hundreds of new aroma compounds in brown bread. But there are also emotional answers. The warmth on a cold morning, the sound as you bite in, a sense of comfort, reliability, simplicity. Others might say it's nostalgia itself, memories of home, childhood, or perhaps a favorite cafe. Back to our story. The Industrial Revolution in the 19th century changed daily life. It brought urbanization, factories, and crucially, electricity. Inventors dreamed of harnessing electricity for every household chore, including toasting bread. In 1893, Crompton and Company of Chelmsford, England, produced one of the first electric toasting appliances. It wasn't portable. It was complicated and unreliable. The coils would often burn out quickly. It toasted bread from one side, required careful attention, and lacked any sort of mechanical timer. But it was a start. Progress toward automation, however clumsy. A pivotal moment arrived in 1905 when Albert Marsh, an American engineer, invented the alloy known as nichrome, a blend of nickel and chromium. This simple material proved essential for electric heating. Durable, quick to heat, and able to withstand repeated use. With nichrome, the first dependable electric toasters became possible. Marsh, who has sometimes been called the father of the toaster, revolutionized breakfast worldwide, even if no one ever asked him to. Soon after, in 1909, Frank Shaler of General Electric unveiled the D12 toaster. It looked like a metal cage, slightly fearsome, and required users to turn the bread to toast both sides evenly. There were no cords for safety, no timers, just a device and the patience of the person standing by. In contemporary terms, if your mind wanders, your bread will burn. Toasting was truly a hands-on experience. In coffee houses and hotels, the D12 made a quiet splash. By the 1920s, new designs introduced timers and eventually spring-loaded levers and automatic pop-up mechanisms. Charles Strite, a mechanic tired of burned toast in his company cafeteria, patented the pop-up toaster in 1921. This invention was a leap. No longer did people need to watch over their slices. The toaster did the thinking, the timing, and the lifting. The Toastmaster, released to home kitchens in 1926, was sleek, chrome-plated, thoroughly modern for its time. It had a dial, and that dial symbolized the future. Anyone could now select their ideal browning. people were delighted, and perhaps, for the first time, a little lazy. Think of the 1930s, the radio humming softly in the background. Breakfast spreads with toast, preserves, and butter became a new normal in North America and Europe. The toaster, now familiar, became an expected fixture in every kitchen. It was both a tool of convenience and a status symbol. Birthdays and weddings often saw the gift of a shiny new toaster. But just when things seemed perfect, something even more remarkable was invented: sliced bread. In 1928, Otto Frederick Roeder of Iowa introduced the mechanized bread slicer. Packaged pre-sliced loaves became popular almost overnight. Consumers could buy bread ready to slip effortlessly into their toasters at home. The phrase, "the best thing since sliced bread," was coined, a nod to just how miraculous this was. With the perfection of sliced bread, the household toaster thrived. In the mid-20th century, toasters evolved rapidly. Designers experimented with 4-slice models, side-slot models, even toaster ovens. Features were steadily added: adjustable slots for thick or thin bread, automatic shut-off, easy-to-empty crumb trays, and eventually, timers and light indicators. In hotels and diners, conveyor belt toasters made high-volume bread, browning possible, hundreds of slices passing under glowing coils every hour. Some factories even developed novelty toasters, which could toast images like cartoon faces, logos, or holiday greetings right onto your bread. Let's pause and consider all the kinds of bread that have passed through the humble toaster. White bread, wheat bread, rye, pumpernickel, sourdough, bagels, English muffins, crumpets, gluten-free, and even frozen waffles, each with unique toasting personalities. Some toast quickly, others slowly. Some become golden brown, others insist on deepening to a dark crispness. Throughout it all, the humble toaster has done its job with little complaint. By the 1960s and 1970s, toasters were advertised as the height of homemaking convenience. Bright colors, harvest gold, avocado green, gleaming chrome, matched the latest kitchen trends. Commercials featured cheerful families gathering for breakfast, toast as the centerpiece of their happy mornings. Still, the essential design stayed steady. Levers, slots, springs, and the reliable pop-up action. Toasters became more affordable, more reliable, and ever-present. Some people grew fiercely loyal to certain brands: Sunbeam, Toastmaster, Breville, or Black Plus Decker. Others inherited toasters from parents or grandparents, machines that outlasted refrigerators and dishwashers. The microwave arrived in the 1970s, touted as the next big kitchen revolution. It could heat food instantly, but it could never make toast. Despite all our inventions, the humble toaster remained irreplaceable. It persisted through all seasons, in college dorms, family kitchens, office pantries, hotel buffets. In recent decades, the toaster has embraced the digital era. Models offer everything from digital timers to one-touch bagel settings. Some include wide slots for specialty breads. There are now smart toasters that connect to your phone. come with color touchscreens, and even take photos of your bread to find the perfect toast level for you. It's possible to receive a notification when your toast is ready, perhaps a step beyond the simple pop. Yet, the act itself remains unchanged. You wake up, place your slice in the slot, press the lever, listen for the soft electric hum, feel the warmth begin to drift up, and maybe smell the bread changing, becoming something new. There is a timelessness to it all. Over a century ago, someone stood next to a flickering fire, holding out bread on the end of a long fork. Now, the simple press of a button is all it takes. Let yourself get lost in that thought for a moment. Imagine how many millions, even billions of slices of toast have been browned and eaten across centuries. Think of the toaster not just as a machine, but as an emblem of home, a symbol of routine, of comfort, of humble stability. Few objects have stayed so simple, so essential, for so long. And so, as you drift, you may hear the rain, perhaps at your own window, and feel the gentle weight of a blanket. Picture a toaster, shiny or battered, new or vintage, waiting quietly on a countertop somewhere. Sometimes the ordinary things in life are the most enduring, and perhaps, when viewed slowly enough, even the most tediously boring history can feel comforting. And that, dear listener, is the long, tediously boring, and surprisingly rich history of the toaster. May your dreams be evenly browned, and may your mornings always rise gently, just like toast from the tray. Good night.